Never underestimate the financial media's desire to have fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the headlines. If you don't believe me, we just saw this on Fox News.
The bill is coming due for Social Security. Had to happen, right? New analysis shows the fund goes insolvent in 2033. If lawmakers do nothing, which, if we're being honest, is likely, retirees take an automatic 23% cut to their benefits. That's no haircut. That's a huge hit for millions of seniors. It's been decades in the making. Washington ignored the problem and hoped it would maybe fix itself. Now there's too many retirees, too few workers paying into the system. The math is real and the deadline is right on top of us.
That's right. The lady, as she said, yes, the math is very real, and many people know that the math no longer works for Social Security. So what are we going to do about this? Well, first of all, let's have a very, very brief history lesson, because they've been talking about this problem in Congress for a very, very long time. And if you don't believe me, let's check out this blast from the past from Alan Greenspan, a former Fed chair. Now, before we start this clip, I want to set the stage because he's talking to a young Paul Ryan, who used to be Speaker of the House. So this is a bit of an old clip, but listen carefully to what he says.
There's nothing to prevent the federal government from creating as much money as it wants and paying it to somebody. The question is, how do you set up a system which assures that the real assets are created, which those benefits are employed to purchase? So it's not a question of security. It's a question of the structure of a financial system which assures that the real resources are created for retirement, as distinct from the cash. The cash itself is nice to have, but it's got to be in the context of the real resources being created at the time those benefits are paid, so that you can purchase real resources.
What Greenspan pointed out, it's not about printing the money. It's about what would the money actually buy. If we have a system where we just create money whenever we need it, well, that could create a real issue with the value of assets because of inflation, and the system itself could break down. So yes, we could print the cash, but what assets would the cash actually buy, or what would be the purchasing power of the money? So effectively, this is going to be a real issue that Congress is going to have to solve. There have been many, many papers written, interviews given. The research has been done. There are mathematical solutions to Social Security. And this is one of the things that we teach in our classes when we do classes on retirement, is there are solutions, but none of them are going to be politically popular. So at least right now, I am of the opinion that the fix for Social Security will continue to be kicked down the road until there's almost no other option except to get in there, roll your sleeves up, and create the solutions from a legislation standpoint. But until then, many of our politicians love to have the issue to campaign about, to talk about, instead of actually providing solutions. Now, we may not like to hear that, but that's what I believe is the actual reality. Now, before I tell you some of the solutions that can help solve the Social Security issue, there is a bigger problem afoot. And the lady on the Fox News clip that I showed earlier, she says the quiet part out loud. Let's check it out.
The Social Security hits insolvency in 2033. Also, Medicare's hospital trust fund runs out of money that same year, and there's an automatic benefit cut to 89 cents on the dollar being paid out. And this Congress, these lawmakers can't get rid of a super subsidy for Obamacare that is $40 billion a year. How on earth are they ever going to fix this?
Okay, So it's not just Social Security that's in trouble. It's also Medicare. In fact, I think the issue with Medicare may even be bigger than Social Security because Medicare is highly, highly subsidized by the federal government. Your Medicare Part A, there is no cost to that once you qualify, and your Part B premiums are heavily, heavily subsidized. But there's something called IRMAA, income-related monthly adjustment amounts, that if you are over certain income thresholds, there is some means testing or increased premiums that you must pay for your Medicare Part B and your Part D. Well, anytime you have precedent for something like that, there isn't much that's stopping Congress from reevaluating the income thresholds and saying, actually, no, these income thresholds need to be lower, giving more people paying more money for their Medicare. So one of the first things that I used to tell people, and it's not a joke, but I used to joke with them, like most people think that you are going to run out, your Social Security is going to be taken away, your benefits are going to be cut. But actually, what I think is going to happen is your increasing Medicare premiums and costs are going to be what actually reduces your Social Security check. Because the vast majority of people in retirement, the way they pay their Medicare premiums, you guessed it, through their Social Security check. So there's a real issue here, and I'm not trying to make light of it because there are real problems and people are definitely going to be impacted about this. So first, let's talk definitely about Social Security and some of the solutions. One of the things that they could do is they could raise the full retirement age, which is the age that you would get your, quote, full retirement benefit from Social Security. They could continue to keep the program actuarially fair, but maybe 67 would also be claiming a little bit early for some of these younger people. Okay. In addition to that, they could look at raising FICA taxes. Now, I don't know anybody that's excited about the potential for payroll taxes going up, but they could, in fact, raise FICA taxes to help fund the gap with Social Security. Some of the other solutions that they could look at doing is they could raise the cap on wages. Right now, there is a cap on wages where high earners don't pay FICA tax on all of their income once they're over a certain threshold. Many people don't like that, but I always remind them that Social Security benefits are directly tied to the math on how benefits are taxed and how much is paid in. The program is designed to be actuarially fair. For higher income earners, the replacement rate or the amount of their income that Social Security actually replaces is much lower than lower wage earners. So in effect, it is essentially fair based on what they're paying into the system and what they're going to receive versus their salary or their current earning potential. Another solution that they could look at is changing how they calculate the cost of living adjustments with Social Security. Right now, they use CPI, and many people argue that that's not really a fair metric for the older population, that maybe they should be using a CPI for the elderly, something that would more accurately reflect the cost of living adjustments that are needed for that age cohort. I'm not really sure if that's going to make a dent in the overall deficit problem that we have with Social Security, but it is a solution that is being floated out there. Now, let's get to Medicare. Medicare is a real issue because so many people rely on Medicare for their health care, and the reimbursement rates with Part A, the subsidized premiums for Part B, if they don't fix that, we could really see costs for Medicare skyrocket at a time when many people aren't going to be financially able to absorb those costs. So this is a real problem. So what can you do? Well, here are a couple things. First, from a retirement income standpoint, I think it's still prudent to look at your plan and stress test your plan and say, okay, if I were to receive a 20% cut or a 25% cut in my Social Security check, what would that look like? Could I possibly cover the gap, and how? Now, I don't think that that's going to happen, but if you really want to give your plan a real stressor, that's one thing you can do. The other thing that you can do is start thinking about how you're going to cover additional healthcare costs down the road in retirement. If you're still working, one of my favorite things that you could be doing right now is if you have an HSA, a health savings account, fund that HSA. And if you can, don't use it. Allow that money to grow and accrue. If you can cash flow your medical expenses, then I highly recommend you do that. Now, of course, not everybody can, but if you can do this, this is really smart long-term planning. Start thinking about your habits now. Build healthy habits. Make sure you're going to the doctor, taking care of yourself. Don't let chronic issues build over time, because there's a real chance that some of these things may be forced upon us where it's more expensive, or Medicare starts cutting back on some of the things that they will and they won't cover, and you're going to have to come out of pocket for it. Now, I know that a lot of this doesn't sound like good news, but the good news is that we know about these solutions. We know about these issues well in advance. This isn't something that's going to happen, boom, overnight. So we have the opportunity to plan and to start making decisions today that could bear fruit for us down the road. So hopefully that makes sense. If you think that the issues with Social Security need to be addressed and things need to be fixed, then go ahead and give us a like on this video, because I think that needs to happen as well. But give us a like on this video. That helps us out on the algorithm, helps the channel reach more people, and we'll see you next time.